I live in Colorado, and I worked for many years in horticulture, including some time at the Denver Botanic Gardens. But today I'm excited to help share information about how to accept SNAP at your farm. And I'm here as a regional representative of the MarketLink grant program. So I'll first share information about SNAP in general, and then how your farm could apply to accept SNAP, then your SNAP equipment options, including the equipment that the MarketLink grant provides. So what is MarketLink? It's a grant program that was created by the nonprofit, the National Association of Farmers Market Nutrition Programs. And it was first created in 2013 in response to a USDA grant opportunity that's known as the SNAP Equipment Grant for farmers and farmers markets. So what we do in a nutshell is we provide technical assistance with the SNAP retailer application, which is required for any business that wants to accept SNAP. And then we provide 1 year of free SNAP equipment to farmers and farmers markets. We'll get into all those details towards the end. So MarketLink is made possible by a few key partnerships. As I mentioned, we were created by the NAFMMP, which is a 501c3 nonprofit whose mission it is to help farmers market nutrition programs succeed on the ground. So like WIC and the seniors programs. And we also have a cooperative agreement with the USDA, or more specifically, Food and Nutrition Services, which is the agency that's actually responsible for administering the SNAP program. So the FNS, as they're known as, provides the funding for our grant. And then we're partnered with Novadia Group, which is the company that actually provides the SNAP equipment for our grant program. And it's an app called Total Payco. So before getting into the steps in the grant program, this beautiful positive feedback cycle is just showing you some of the benefits to accepting SNAP for our communities. So starting with the obvious in purple, when a farm accepts SNAP, they're able to increase their sales by expanding their customer base. That's red. And then beyond profitability, of course, you're improving food access to our community's most vulnerable population. There's orange. And then farms and markets that are also demonstrating that everyone is welcome to shop with them. And they're also empowering SNAP customers to support our local economies. So this win-win scenario helps build our sense of community. There's yellow. And then customers who shop at farmers markets buy more fruits and veggies and are therefore more likely to lead healthier lives. There's dark green. And this all provides unique marketing opportunities to help promote your farm. So there's spring green. Here's a few more reasons you might consider. SNAP is a $100 billion program, and currently less than 0.12% of that is being spent with farmers and farmers markets. So we're trying to chisel away at that. Also, SNAP is an excellent companion program to WIC and seniors programs, because not only does it reach different customers, but SNAP also allows a greater variety of food, which I'll cover in the next slide. And then what this slide is showing you is that red line is the amount of funding going into the WIC and seniors farmers market nutrition programs. And the purple line is showing you how much funding is going to SNAP. So you can see there's a lot of opportunity for your farm to expand sales if you're currently only accepting WIC and or seniors checks. So here's some basic facts on SNAP, or the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. So who's eligible to receive SNAP benefits? People qualify based on income and household factors. The majority of SNAP participants are low-income working families and the elderly. So in 2021, 41.5 million Americans received SNAP benefits, and 371,000 Connecticut residents received SNAP. And that's about 10% of your population. On average, that shakes out to about $176 per household member per month, which is about $6 per household member per day. Now, what foods can be purchased with SNAP? As I mentioned, WIC and seniors program shoppers are usually limited to fruits, vegetables, cut herbs, and honey. Whereas with SNAP, shoppers can also buy meat, fish, dairy, eggs, baked goods, processed foods, honey, cider, juices, herbs, and even plants and seeds that will produce food. So what's not allowed are non-food products, wine and alcohol, hot foods, and foods meant to be eaten on site. Okay, so when and where can a farmer accept SNAP? So if you meet the USDA's definition of a direct marketing farmer, which I'll cover in a moment, then you have the unique ability to accept SNAP wherever you sell. So this includes farmers markets that you attend, if you have a farm stand or store, either on or off the farm, and you can accept SNAP for CSA shares. And in the next slide, I'll tell you how. You can also be accepting SNAP at multiple locations at the same time. You'll just need equipment for each location. And this is unique because most businesses are limited to accepting SNAP at their physical location alone. So there are a few obstacles to accepting SNAP for CSA shares, but it is possible and many farms do it. So the SNAP regulation states that SNAP funds may not be used for products delivered in the future, but there is an exception for direct marketing farmers and nonprofit food buying cooperatives. They are allowed to accept SNAP for items that will be received within 2 weeks of purchase. So the obstacle here is that a SNAP customer cannot purchase their full share upfront. The other regulation that ties in here is that SNAP cards must be charged in person. This has to do with the PIN code a SNAP customer must punch in themselves to charge their SNAP card. So the PIN code is not supposed to be shared with anyone else. And the obstacle this presents is that SNAP transactions can't be done over the phone. So farmers, being the problem solvers that you are, have created a solution where you have SNAP customers pay for their share every 2 weeks at time of pickup. Sometimes farms will have a SNAP customer provide a credit card to hold the order. And I've also seen farms ask SNAP customers to sign an agreement for this arrangement. And just the feedback I've heard, they said that it's very rarely, if ever, do they have issues with a no-show picking up their SNAP share. And then a crash course on how SNAP is accepted at farmers markets. There's basically two systems you might encounter. The first system is the ideal scenario, which is where the farmers market itself will apply with the USDA to be a SNAP retailer. So in this scenario, there's one central set of SNAP equipment used for the entire market. And then that SNAP equipment is going to be connected to a bank account that's used for the market. So all the SNAP deposits will go into that central bank account, and then vendors are reimbursed. SNAP sales will be managed using either a token or receipt system, and I'll describe that in a few slides. But in this model, you need all the vendors willing to participate. The market needs staff or volunteers to operate the SNAP equipment, manage that token system, and issue reimbursement to the vendors. The market also needs a budget to cover the costs of the equipment, tokens, vendor training, and then marketing and outreach of their SNAP program. So I say this is usually the ideal scenario because it takes the cost burden off the shoulders of the vendors. And it's easier and more appealing for SNAP customers because they know they can use their SNAP card on any eligible items at the market. The other scenario is the vendor level system. And this is how it works when the farmers market is unable or unwilling to manage a SNAP program. So in this system, any vendor that wants to accept SNAP will apply with the USDA to become a SNAP retailer on their own. And then once they're approved, they'll need to pay for the SNAP equipment, and that equipment will be connected to their business bank account. So their SNAP deposits will go straight into their bank account, and they can only accept SNAP for the items they're selling. So in this scenario, it's usually the vendors who have to budget for signage and marketing materials to let SNAP shoppers know that they accept SNAP at their booth. And this isn't ideal because it's more expensive on vendors and it can be a little confusing for SNAP customers, but this is a very common reality. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, another option out there. Okay, and then as I mentioned, in that market level system where the market has the SNAP equipment, the SNAP sales are managed using either tokens or receipts. And this is getting very deep in the weeds. I'll try to not bore you to death, but so in either situation, the SNAP card reader is going to be kept at a centralized information booth that's operated by market staff or volunteers. So in the token system, SNAP customers will come to that booth and ask market staff to charge a certain amount to their card, and then the market staff will give them tokens in exchange. Then the customer can use those tokens to purchase SNAP items at the market. And at the end of the market, vendors will turn in the tokens spent with them, and market staff will record how much is owed to each vendor. So some markets might keep cash on hand to pay out vendors immediately. Other markets will reimburse vendors later by transferring money from the bank account or cutting a check. And if customers have unused tokens, they can go back to that information booth and ask for a return on their SNAP card. And the other system is the receipt system. So in this model, customers will go right to your booth to shop, and you'll need to sort out SNAP eligible items and tally up a receipt for them. And then the customer will take that receipt to the information booth, and market staff will charge their card and then sign or stamp that receipt as proof of purchase. Then the customer takes that receipt back to the vendor and picks up their items. And at the end of the market, vendors will take these receipts back to market staff, and they are reimbursed in one of those ways I just described. Okay, so if you're interested in accepting SNAP and you'd like some help from MarketLink, these are the basic steps in our program, and I'll go into each of these in detail, but step one is to complete the eligibility application on our website. Then step two, if you haven't done so already, you'll need to do that USDA SNAP retailer application. Then step three, if you're eligible for the grant and you've been authorized to accept SNAP, you're ready to get SNAP equipment. So if you're going through MarketLink, we'll set you up with Total Pay Go. And then that last step is receiving and setting up your SNAP equipment. So what that involves will depend on the type of equipment that you get. So that first step of filling out the eligibility application on our website is determining if you're eligible for the free SNAP equipment. So who's eligible is direct marketing farmers, and the USDA defines them as individual producers of agricultural products that sell directly to the public. And the important piece here is that at least 50% of what you sell, you have to have produced yourself. Our grant program is also available to farmers markets that meet the USDA definition of a multi-stall market at which farmer producers sell food products they produced directly to the general public at a fixed location. There's a lot of other categories in there, so you might still be eligible to accept SNAP even if you don't meet one of those. So feel free to reach out if you have questions. So who's not eligible to the grant equipment is if you're not a direct marketing farmer, farmers market, if you've already received equipment from us since October 2019, so this can only be used once, or if you have functioning equipment that you received through a state-sponsored program. So you can't be using that at the same time as our equipment. Okay, so if you complete that application and find you're not eligible for some reason, we can still help you in a lot of ways. These are all the services that we provide. So regardless of if you're eligible, we can help you with that SNAP retailer application. But if you are eligible, you can receive the free SNAP card reader and a 1-year subscription to the Total Pay Go app. If you're not eligible, you'll need to purchase equipment. If you get equipment through the grant, we'll help you set it up and train you to use it. But if you're not grant eligible, we can still advise you on what your equipment options are. And then finally, we're here to help with any questions you might have about SNAP. And on that note, one of the most valuable free services that we offer is technical assistance. So we have a nationwide team that's available to help through that whole process. So a great starting point is you can send us an email or book a phone call with one of us, which can be done on our website. And we're happy to talk all things SNAP. There's no pressure, so we don't have all the answers, but we can help guide you and connect you with helpful resources. Okay, so the next step is the biggie. It's the USDA SNAP retailer application, which any business that wants to accept SNAP must complete. A free service that our grant program offers is assistance with the application. We've created step-by-step guides if you'd like to do it on your own, or we can submit it on your behalf. So we highly recommend you allow us to submit it for you because it lets us make sure that you're eligible, and then we can track your application and help you get approved as quickly as possible. So this is just a brief overview of the process. First of all, it's an online application. If you have us apply on your behalf, then we'll send you a list of information to gather, and then you schedule a phone appointment with us. During that call, we'll fill out the application for you. If you do it on your own, you'll first need to create an account on the USDA website, then you can fill out the application. Now for that application, you'll need to identify who will be the responsible official for your SNAP program. And for direct marketing farmers, this is straightforward. You must list all owners of the business. So this responsible official, as the name suggests, will be responsible for ensuring that the business is following federally mandated rules. And what's most important here is that you're only accepting SNAP for SNAP eligible items. This is also the only person the USDA will speak to regarding your SNAP application or your permit. And the business listed and the responsible official will receive a 1099-K from the SNAP equipment provider for SNAP sales each year. So number 3, after you fill out the online application, you'll need to upload some required documents to the USDA's website. And what is required is going to depend on the type of business you have, LLC or sole proprietorship. But in general, each responsible official must submit a copy of their photo ID and a copy of their Social Security card. So the only exemption to that Social Security card requirement is for 501c nonprofit farmers markets or government-owned farmers markets. There's also a signature page for each responsible official to sign. And if your state or local authorities require any business licenses to operate, you should upload those. And if you happen to be a 501c3 farm, they'll ask for a copy of your IRS determination letter. So once those documents are uploaded, the USDA will actually start reviewing your application. They sometimes will ask for more information. So it's very important that you keep a close eye on your email and your mailbox because there will be a deadline to respond. And if you miss it, they'll withdraw your application and you'll have to resubmit it. It's also very important to check on the status of your application regularly. You can check it online by logging into that USDA website, but it's also very helpful to call the USDA on occasion and check in. If you have us submit on your behalf, then we'll do this for you. So finally, once you're approved, you'll be issued a SNAP permit. On that SNAP permit will be your FNS number, Food and Nutrition Services number, which is necessary for you to get SNAP point of sale equipment. So a few important things to remember for that application process is to have an active email account that you check regularly. This is the primary way they'll contact you. You also need a bank account for the electronic transactions. Also, for the application, you should collect as much information as you can before starting. This will make for a much smoother process. And finally, start early. The whole process can take anywhere from 1 to 3 months. So don't wait until spring to do this. The USDA gets swamped with applications for farmers and farmers markets between March and July. So it'll take a lot longer to get approved if you apply during that time. So if you can manage it, fall and winter are the best times to do this. And don't let 3 months scare you. It's usually closer to about six weeks. Okay, so once you've got your SNAP permit in hand, you'll need equipment to accept SNAP cards. So this is just showing you a couple examples of different types of equipment out there. There's companies you can purchase equipment from. Some banks provide SNAP card readers. And if you're eligible, one of your options is the equipment provided by MarketLink. So let's look at that. So we call this a bring your own device program. Meaning that customers will need to provide their own smartphone or tablet to run the Total Pay Go app on. And this can be someone's personal or business device. It just needs to have Bluetooth because that's how you're going to connect your phone or tablet to the SNAP card reader. And then to run the app, you'll need either a data plan or connection to Wi-Fi. So if you add a data plan, any phone carrier will work. And then this photo on the right is giving you a general idea of the setup. The SNAP card reader is that little black box to the right of the phone. It's about the size of a matchbox. And then you may have noticed our equipment setup does not include a printer. So generally, it's federally mandated that a printed receipt must be provided for SNAP transactions. However, the USDA provided a printed receipt waiver for those who receive equipment through our grant. So instead of a printed receipt, customers are offered a emailed or text receipt. And it's important to note because many SNAP customers depend on those receipts to track their SNAP account balance. You can still check a customer's SNAP balance on the app without processing a sale, and you can email or text that balance to them. But if for whatever reason you need or want a printer, those are available for purchase. Okay, so if that equipment setup sounds like it would work well for you, then you're on to step 4, signing up for a Total Pay Go account. Some of the perks of Total Pay Go is you have the ability to do a monthly subscription if you sell seasonally, or a yearly subscription. There's no long-term contract, no early termination fees, no per transaction fees for SNAP sales, and then no setup fees or ACH banking fees. So here's what's covered by the grant for 1 year, and then what cost to expect after that first year's up. So the grant covers the cost of that SNAP card reader entirely. That's yours to keep. And then covers 1 year of the Total Pay Go app subscription is paid for. And then you also have that printer waiver, so no cost for printing receipts. And then if you decide to add credit and debit processing, those fees will apply, and I'll cover that in the next slide. But after the first year, if you want to still keep using Total Pay Go, the cost is in the subscription to the app. So that'll be $191.40 for the year or $19.95 per month. But otherwise, you'll continue to have those other perks as a MarketLink customer. There's no per transaction fees, the card reader is yours, and the printer waiver. So the top section is a little redundant, so let's look at this bottom section to look at the credit and debit processing fees. So Total Pay is partnered with both Square and WorldPay. And with that partnership, how it works is that you integrate a Square or WorldPay account into the Total Pay Go app. And then the per transaction fees are set by those companies. So for Square, it's 10 cents plus 2.6% of the sale, and they don't require a contract. WorldPay charges 15 cents plus 1.79% of the sale, but they do require a multi-year contract. So we generally recommend Square unless you are already locked into a WorldPay contract. But one important difference is that if you go with Square, you will need to get a Square card reader for credit and debit cards. So it can connect to the Total Pay app at the same time as the SNAP card reader. So you'll use one app, Total Pay Go, but 2 card readers depending on the type of card you're processing. That is one benefit. If you go with WorldPay, then you can use the same card reader for all cards. So here's what the Total PayGo app would look like on your smart device. On the left, you have the sign-in screen. The next one is the home screen, where you'd select the type of sale that you want to do. And what tender types show up on your app will depend on what you're set up with. So if you don't integrate for credit and debit processing, there won't be a credit button here. And then the next screens are just showing you how you can have both a Snap card reader, which is called the Chipper BT, and a Square card reader connected at the same time. And then in addition to the Total PayGo app, there's the website, and this is where you sign into your Total PayGo account. You can adjust settings and then view and download all your sales data. You can also put your data into some handy displays if you want to look at your sales on an hourly, weekly, monthly basis, or by payment method. Okay, and then some future projects that we're working on. Some of you might be aware that it's not been possible for small retailers to accept SNAP on an online store because the USDA has very strict and therefore expensive security standards. That's why you only see like big retailers accepting SNAP online right now. But the USDA has recognized this problem, and they created another grant opportunity to help create a solution for this, which we won last year. So right now we're in the testing phase with Farm Generations Cooperative, and we expect to have some pilot farms going through the process soon. So once we get the green light from the USDA, we'll be able to help farmers get authorized to accept SNAP online. So if you're interested, just let us know, and we'll send you an online SNAP newsletter that you can sign up with, that we post updates as they come along. But no matter what, your first step will be to get authorized to accept SNAP. So that's a great place to start. And of course, you can find us on social media to keep up with what's going on. And here's our contact information. I know that was information overload, so I'm happy to answer questions now or after you chew on this and come up with some questions. Feel free to email me directly, or you can book a phone call on our website. Otherwise, thank you all so much for your time. I really appreciate you listening to me, so thank you. Do we have any questions?
Great. Well, actually, so I think what we're going to do is we actually have a farmer here, Libby, who was able to go through the process herself. And we're just going to have her share for a little bit about what the process was like, how she went about it, and then we will open it up to questions to everyone. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop the sharing for a minute and spotlight Libby, and I'll spotlight you and add myself too. So you're not alone up there on that big screen. But so Libby is with Russo's Roots Farm in Canterbury, and she just went through this process this last spring, right, Libby?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Great. So yeah, if you just want to share a little bit about your experience and how it went for you and what you liked, things like that, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah, it was sort of a last minute decision for us. We weren't sure we wanted to do it, then we did want to do it. And so I looked at it online, and I looked at what the process was going to be, and it actually seemed a little easier than I thought and what I had heard other farmers mention on the New Connecticut Farmers Alliance. That kind of had scared me away because there were a lot of comments about how onerous it was, how much time consuming, and how they kept getting, having to provide more documents. And so I was like, maybe not. But then when I looked at the MarketLink stuff, I thought it looked a lot simpler. So I started the process, and it was. And I don't know who's on here, what farmers, but we are only vegetables. It's the only thing that we grow and sell. So the questions were pretty basic for us. The questions are, a lot of the questions are, what percentage of this do you have? What percentage of this do you have? What percentage of this? And you have to choose the categories. So for us, it was 100% vegetables. We were planning on using it. We do 2 farmers markets, one accepts SNAP, excuse me, and one does not. So we were planning on using it for our CSA, our farm stand, and at one of our farmers markets if necessary. And so we don't sell anything else except our vegetables. So in that case, it was also just 100%. Even at the farm stand, there was no meat, there was no eggs, there was no packaged products. So it was extremely straightforward. So I don't know if that makes a difference, but for me, that made it really easy. So we went through that whole process. I did provide all the documentation. Make sure you don't put the documentation on the same page. Everything has to be on a different page. I put licenses on the same page and then I had to redo it. Apparently everything has to be on its own page. But other than that, it was pretty easy. Got my number really quickly. I actually had the Department of Ag call me really fast. I think it was within a couple weeks. I was waiting, thought I was going to be waiting 6 weeks, and it was definitely within a couple weeks that they called me. They had looked at our website. They'd looked at to see what we were, how we were presenting, what we were selling and all that kind of stuff to double check it. She had a few questions for me, wanted to remind me, for the CSA component that you can only charge for 2 weeks. She just wanted to make sure I knew that and all of which I did because that's explained in everything. And she was extremely supportive and super excited to have farms doing this program. So that was actually kind of nice to have this person call up and just be like, oh no, just want to chat. So I kind of liked that. It didn't feel like it was, pressure or anything that we were doing that, there was a real inspection or anything. She did say that somebody, you could be randomly picked and somebody might come out to your farm just to see that you're doing everything the right way and that kind of stuff. So that was it. So then we were done and that was it. We got our equipment. We were all set to go. It was super fast. We set it up at the farm stand. We had only one CSA member use it this year. I think advertising may be part of it. I mean, we put it on our website, we posted it on Facebook, social media, but I don't know if I need to connect with more people in Canterbury maybe who use EBT, and I don't necessarily know how to go about that. But I think the next step would be some more marketing for it. And maybe my one EBT person can help me with that. But running the cards was easy. She did say to me that, should you run the card, you can enter it manually. Oh, and so I had my one-on-one afterwards. So you make an appointment and have the one-on-one with, I forget his name from Total Pay. But he's great. He's been doing snaps for 30 years. I couldn't even believe how long he's been doing this. He's in Austin, Texas. And so he has known SNAP since it probably was a horrible thing for people to have to try and use. But now they've made it so much simpler. So he, you can ask him tons of questions. The one thing I forgot to ask him that did come up was how to change phones. I dropped my phone in the pool and had to get a new one. And that was I didn't find that to be as clear on the website because you're using one program called Total Pay when you go and check all your stuff, but there's 3 options and I can't remember now, but it's a different option to change phones. It's really easy once you do it, but I didn't know how to do it. And it took me a while to figure that out. So I was without my EBT for a little while because of that. So maybe just when you have your one-on-one with him, ask him, how do you go about, adding a different phone? Because you can't use, unless you want to pay for it, you can't use more than one phone with the app. You only have one phone with the app, unless you want to pay for a second one, which is too bad. I mean, I understand why, but with Square, it's kind of nice to be able to have one go to market and one be at the stand and still be able to use both, but not have to pay $20 per month. But I guess if you get a lot of SNAP, it's not worth it because you would make up for that in your sales. The only other thing so the other thing that happened to us was I couldn't always get my reader to connect quickly enough because I'm not using it enough. So I use a separate Square app to the Total Pay app. I don't have my Square in my Total Pay because I really don't use EBT that much. So then when I go, the device shuts off. So then when I finally get somebody who wants to use EBT, it takes a little while to get it going again. Not like minutes, but it does take a little time. So then you just have to make sure that it's connected to your device. And not anything that people don't know how to do, but it's just something that happens to me. But other than that, it's been really simple. I was surprised. After hearing all the horror stories, I was really unsure about it. And then when Becca and I had been talking about it and it possibly being something that was going to be free for a year and was going to have this device, that I actually looked into it a little bit more, watched a couple of the videos that the Total Pay app people put on, and it was a lot simpler, even the process with going through the Department of Ag. So it's definitely worth it if you're thinking of doing it. Even if, like us, you're not getting a lot of EBT right away, the people, like our one CSA member, really appreciates that we have it. I mean, she did our CSA anyway, but she's glad that we have it now. And I've since had a couple people who saw it on our website and are excited that we do that. So.
Great, awesome. And yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things for new farmers around here. The part that you said about marketing. It's hard because people aren't used to all of our farms accepting SNAP EBT. So it's almost like we have to teach people that this is now something that's available at some farms, not just farmers markets that are going through the SNAP doubling process and stuff. Yes, you can actually go to some farm stands, and yes, you can use it as a CSA. So for Grown Connected, I know that's one thing that we're going to think about and develop, but just from the marketing perspective, if you have time, and again, this is why we're talking about it now in the fall when things are starting to quiet down, hopefully for farmers in the winter, you can apply and know far ahead of time that you can accept SNAP and EBT far ahead of when the farmers market season starts up and when your farm stand opens up again. And do a little bit of, for instance, I would say reaching out to local nonprofits that are serving your community. Let them know that this is an option and they could potentially share that information out to their members that they're working with, or even local churches or libraries, places like that where people may see the information and pick it up. So that's just a little plug for the marketing. Whitney, have you had other people experiencing that sort of just at the very beginning of accepting SNAP EBT, and have any suggestions yourself?
Yes, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because, I realize now after doing this for a couple years how important it is to talk to farmers about that, as far as it's worth it to maybe even delay getting SNAP authorized, hold off till the end of the season, and then you have some time to put in, some research about how much customers do you think you'd have in your area, and then also, to be marketing it so that you can kind of bolster how many potential customers you have before you at least, begin your 1 year of free equipment through MarketLink. So yes, marketing is a huge part of it because, like you said, a lot of SNAP customers just don't know that they can shop with farmers and farmers markets.
Awesome. Great. Well, we're going to move on to some other questions, but before we do that, I'm just going to give a quick little shout out once again. If everyone could please, if they'd be willing, fill out our survey. Again, it really helps with making these better and also, reporting to our funders. Just wanted to also give another shout out we have one more workshop in this series, the new opportunities to sell to wholesale buyers. The folks that are part of that are Click Willimantic, Healthy Plan Eat, which is a distributor in the northeastern part of Connecticut, not northeastern, all of eastern Connecticut, and she's slowly expanding. Click is mostly in northeastern Connecticut, but then we'll also be talking to some folks from Farm to School about how to sell produce to schools, and they're talking about the entire state. And we'll also have some other information just about statewide stuff too. So if you haven't signed up for that and you're interested, please go ahead and do that. I will write that website in the chat as well, so you can just click and go. But yeah, let's go ahead, and if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or if you're feeling bold, you could just go ahead and unmute yourself and we can talk about it. I saw Stephen had a cost about having MarketLink help with the applications, and you responded in there, but I'll let you speak to it as well.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, Stephen had asked if there's any cost to get help with that SNAP application, and no, that's a free service we offer. And even if we help you with the SNAP application and you decide to not use the equipment, that's no problem at all. So it's just another service we offer. And
Great.
then I do see, yeah, two questions from Jen that looked a little more complicated than what I wanted to answer in the chat. So Jen had asked if I could explain the difference between WIC and SNAP. So yes, WIC stands for Women, Infants, and Children. And so both WIC and SNAP are funded at the federal level. So that's where the money comes from. But where SNAP is managed at the federal level, so it's that, F&S of the USDA that manages everything. WIC, it's actually each state will apply for a bit of that funding. And so it depends on how strong a state program is set up. That translates to how much money they actually get to fund their WIC program and how much they're therefore able to offer WIC participants. So women, infants, and children, they have unique rules at the state level, but it's designed to help support, pregnant and nursing mothers and children up to the age of 5, I believe. So WIC has traditionally been a paper check system, but in 2020, the federal government mandated states to update to doing an electronic system like SNAP, so to turn it into something like a card, how SNAP works. So since it's managed at the state level, each state is dealing with this in a different way, and so the timeline on that varies a lot. So if you were interested in accepting WIC, though, your first step would be to find out who administers it in your state and apply with them to be a WIC vendor. Does that kind of lay out the differences there? Are there any extra questions? Okay. And then Jen's other question was about that 50% rule that I'd said that direct marketing farmers need to at least 50% of what they sell, they have to have produced. Jen says, I have a farm and market myself as a daily farmers market because I carry several other local farms products. So I only sell about 25% of what I grow, but it's all local. So those, they call it the business types, that direct marketing farmer is one of the business types. And these are written into the Farm Bill, actually. So a lot of this is kind of old. It hasn't been updated. And you can imagine, because to get it updated is an act of Congress. So we all know how that goes. But what they're going to consider you is actually a produce market. So it doesn't mean you're not eligible to accept SNAP. They're just going to consider you a produce market based on their, black and white definitions that they have. So you'd still be able to accept SNAP if you had at your farmer's market, but you're limited to that physical location. So if you go to like a farmer's market, you wouldn't be able to accept SNAP there, unless you wanted to do the application for a delivery route, and then that lets you accept SNAP on the go. So it gets a little, messy when you get into those different business types, but we can certainly help you understand that.
And can she still apply through you all and benefit from like the work that MarketLink is grant funded by?
Yes, you can still apply with us, and we can, help you to get SNAP authorized. We just can't provide equipment to any other business type besides the direct marketing farmers or farmers markets. But when you do the MarketLink application, it'll ask you what kind of business you are, and that will let us know what kind of help you would need through the process.
I have another question or two, but I don't want to jump in before anyone else, so I'll open it. Okay, counted to 5. So, Libby mentioned that when she was going through her application, it seemed really easy because she just does vegetables. So there are a good handful of farms that do like veggies and eggs or veggies and meat. Does that add some extra steps to it? And, what can farmers expect if they have, they definitely have like 75% or more that's produced on their farm that they're selling, but what is that application process going to look like for them?
Yeah, so no matter what, it'll be the same application you do. And the parts of it, though, that'll look a little different for you is they have USDA has their stocking requirements, they call them. And so that's to make sure that you're carrying enough staple foods to provide to SNAP customers. And the staple foods include fruits and veggies, dairy, meat, fish, poultry, eggs, and then breads and cereals. And so on the application, instead of if you're just growing vegetables, you're able to just kind of do 100% vegetables in the staple foods category. But if you offer a few other products, you're going to need to just understand the difference between staple foods and, say, accessory foods is another one that comes up a lot. And that would include, or commonly, is like honey and maple syrup. And they'll ask for an estimate of what percentage of your sales go to accessory foods versus staple foods versus non-food products. So you just kind of, they understand that this is an estimate, but you just have to put in a little bit more homework to make sure, what you're selling falls in the right category.
So what you're saying is that the people that worked on this stuff were not from New England, because they would have known that maple syrup is a staple food here.
Exactly.
So, but maple syrup and honey are indeed accessory food
Yes.
products. What about something like hard salami that was processed from the meat products that you raised and then brought back to your farm to sell?
Sure. So what's important with processed foods is the first ingredient in the product. So as long as that first ingredient is a staple foods, then it's considered a staple food. So yeah, but I'm not sure what's all in salami, to be honest with you, but it's
mostly meat. Yeah. Yeah. Unless it's a Slim Jim, but I don't think many of our farmers are selling Slim Jims. So great. And then the other thing that I wanted to highlight is you mentioned seedlings and seeds. This is something that I think often goes unnoticed. And I know that a lot of our farmers start their own seeds and seedlings, and then they have excess and sell them at the beginning of the season. So is there anything in particular that farmers should be aware of regarding seedlings if they're selling them?
It's one of the lesser known things that I love to promote, just because I used to work in a greenhouse, and as long as it's a food or a plant that will produce food, then it's eligible to be sold using SNAP. So there's really not too much oversight there. The only thing that comes to mind is that if that was the only thing that you're selling, you're not selling food items, then they'll more than likely reject your SNAP application because they want you to have actual food as well as the seedlings. But yes, it's a fantastic unknown fact that you can accept SNAP for that.
That's really great because, it's healthy to have your hands in the soil, and we all know that as farmers. So we got to spread the love. So, are there any other questions that folks have? For Libby as well, it's not limited to Whitney. So if you want to ask Libby about her experience, she's here. I'm going to ask Libby, you did not try to submit for accepting EBT and SNAP before MarketLink, correct? This was your first attempt.
Correct. Yeah. No, I didn't do it through any other system, just through MarketLink.
Yeah. Well, speaking as to other farmers' experiences that I've talked to, I know that it has seemed very difficult in the past, just because some of that paperwork is a real burden. And I think the fact that you basically help people with the submission part, Whitney, is a huge boon for farmers, because I mean, whatever you feel about the state Department of Ag or whatever, the fact is that they're understaffed just like everybody else. So it's helpful to have another set of hands that are working with you in that process. So I really I'm glad that you guys are offering that.
Yes, yeah, and a lot of the horror stories, if it came from the last couple of years, it is that FNS has been woefully understaffed and not too happy. There's been a lot of workplace struggles there, but in the last year they've hired 1,400 people. So even this year we saw people getting approved much faster, and they're really starting to, it's improving. So don't let that scare you away.
And I just wanted to quick say that you can definitely just follow along MarketLink's steps and do it even without, if you don't have, if you just, like me, just want to do it yourself, they've laid it out really well so that you can just follow along 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's pretty easy just going along with the stuff that they put out there.
Yeah, Julia, I noticed your question. Yes, this is being recorded and I will share it with everyone after, probably tomorrow. So I want to expand on that, Whitney, with nuts being a staple food. So yeah, nuts, what about like seeds? I don't know if you want to speak more to that as well.
Yeah, nuts and seeds both count as a staple food. I'm trying to think if there's any, even like popcorn does. The next most common group that comes up is that accessory foods group, and that would be things like condiments, spice mixes. What else would commonly go in there? You would think maybe that jams and jellies would, but if the first ingredient is fruit, then that actually counts as a staple food. So if you do a lot of canning of your products, those are all considered staple foods.
And Stephen, I see your question there. about the End Hunger Connecticut program with BT Fresh Match, and I am looking up that information right now. So yeah, so for that program, it looks like your farmer's market actually has to apply. So I don't think they're doing that for farm stands right now, but a farmer's market should apply for that, and then they will receive funding to double that SNAP bucks, because any of the farmers markets really before this program that doubled SNAP dollars, that was mostly done through fundraising or applying for grants on behalf of the farmers markets. So, you know, that's another way that people do it too. I know the Willimantic Farmers Market, they do some fundraising and apply for grants in order to double the SNAP EBT dollars that people bring to the market. And it's really great, it goes a long way. So, you know, if you're part of a farmer's market that doesn't accept SNAP right now, I would very much encourage you, again, this is being recorded, so you can send the recording to the farmer's market master because it's a similar process for farmers markets. And also share about the CT Fresh Match. So, yeah. Any other questions? Well, I'm gonna plop that link into the chat one more time for the survey, and definitely also encourage everyone to join us at our next workshop, which will be next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Sign up if you haven't. And thank you so much, Libby and Whitney, for sharing some of your insight and experience with us tonight. And again, I dropped Whitney's information in the chat, but I will also be sharing these slides, and Whitney's contact information is in those slides if you need to reference it tomorrow or in the days to come. So, all right.
Thank you, Becca.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.